So, this was the end of Halloween 2. That is Michael Myers on fire after having both eyes shot out. It was safe to say he was dead and never ever coming back, along with Dr. Loomis, who was supposed to have died in the explosion at the end of Halloween 2. They carried on with the Halloween series and gave us this, Halloween 3, The Season of the Witch. But fans said, no Michael Myers, no thank you. So then they brought him back from the dead and Dr. Loomis and gave us this. Welcome to my Halloween 4 movie review. Hey guys, how is it all going? So, thank you so much for joining me for what is Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers movie review. And to get into the plot of this movie is, apparently Michael Myers and Dr. Loomis both survived the ending of Halloween 2. Okay, so Michael Myers has pretty much been comatose for about 10 years since the events of Halloween 2. He's all bandaged up because of his injuries and his burns from the end of that movie, and he is being moved from one mental hospital to another. He is going back to Smith Grove. Now, while he's being transferred to Smith Grove at the back of the ambulance, he overhears the paramedics talk about his niece. Now he has a new bloodline that he gets to hunt. This sets Michael Myers off. He kills the two paramedics and he is heading to Haddonfield to kill his niece. Dr. Loomis gets wind of this and is heading to Haddonfield himself to try and stop the evil force, the shape that is Michael Myers, from doing his deed. Now, I remember first watching Halloween 4 many years ago when I was a young boy. I must have been about, oh God, I'm thinking back. I must have been about 10, 11 years old when I first watched Halloween 4. And I liked it. I liked Halloween 4. And I watched Halloween 4 quite a lot through my teenage years and early teenage years and late teenage years and early in my adult life, 19, 20, 21. I watched Halloween 4 quite a bit and always enjoyed that installment of the Halloween series. And admittedly, I hadn't seen it for a very long time. And I was actually genuinely looking forward into jumping back into it to do this review for you guys. And to see where it stacks up now in my life, if I still feel the same, or if I feel a little bit differently, if I have different thoughts towards the movie. And what surprises me the most is I still enjoy the movie. I still think the movie's good. But it went down a few notches for me this time. It is not as good as I remember it to be when I was younger. And I will dive into the reasons why it took a few knocks for me this time around. But as I always do, guys, I always start with my positives. And I still think the movie's good. I still find a lot to enjoy with this movie. And there's two reasons why for that. One is Donald Pleasence as Dr. Loomis. He is just fantastic. I shouldn't, it goes without saying, I've praised Donald Pleasence as Dr. Loomis in my original Halloween review and in my Halloween 2 review. And he is just as good in Halloween 4 as he is in them two movies. He has some really good acting moments in Halloween 4 and he generally is trying and putting in a brilliant performance. And we get more screen time with Dr. Loomis, and any more screen time with Dr. Loomis is A-okay in my book. So Donald Pleasence highly elevates the material in pretty much anything he's in for me. I think he's one of the best actors we've ever had, to be honest with you. And he does a fantastic job as Dr. Loomis. So he's the first one. The second one is Danielle Harris as Jamie Lloyd. Now, kid actors are, let's be nice about this, very, very hit and miss. And they're more miss than hit, if we're going to be really honest with ourselves. But, you know, Danielle Harris as Jamie Lloyd in this, and this was her first feature film, by the way. She is absolutely exceptional in this movie. I dare say it, I will go as far as to say, I think she gives the best performance in this movie. For a first time film, and for such a young child at the time, she close to steals this, man. She really does. And you really feel for her character, man. I mean, when she's crying, screaming and running, you genuinely think this kid must be traumatized. This kid is generally really scared. Not acting. She looks genuinely terrified. And that just goes like down to the talents of the actress. You know, she's magnificent for a first performance. It's brilliant. I can't praise her enough. And yeah, so Donald Pleasence and Danielle Harris are two of the massive stands out for Halloween 4. I also like the opening of this movie. It's not your usual Halloween opening where you'll have like a pumpkin and the Halloween theme's playing and it's getting closer to the pumpkin and then the pumpkin will split open, you'll see a skull in there or whatever. You know, that's like a typical normal Halloween movie opening. This one is very subtle and it doesn't have the Halloween theme. We don't hear the Halloween theme until Michael Myers is moving out the mental hospital, going into the back of the ambulance. And I like this opening. It's very somber. It kind of sets the tone and the mood of the movie up really well. And that just falls into something else which I really like about Halloween 4. I like the soundtrack to this. And I like how they played with the Halloween theme a little bit in this movie as well. But I like how they tried to do their own thing. So I appreciate that as well. And it worked for me for Halloween 4. It really did. And also, for me, still, this has one of the best scenes in all the franchise. And it's the scene with Dr. Loomis and Michael Myers in the gas station where they first see each other for the first time in this movie anyway, and for, you know, however, like 10 years it's been since they were supposed to have last seen each other. It's still one of the best scenes, and like Daniel Pleasence, it just gives a, as I've said, gives a great performance, and he's so good in this scene. He's just very subtle with things sometimes, but you just, yeah, it's a great scene. I love the scene. I've always loved this scene, and the scene is very well directed as well, which I think the majority of the movie is quite well directed, to be fair. It's different in the way there's more kind of like, there's a lot more close-ups in Halloween 4 than what it is in, say, the original, where there was a lot of like wide shots. So style-wise, it is different, but I think it's done well. So, oh, and one more thing before I dive into my negatives. There's a certain aspect of Michael Myers' look I like in this. I like the bandaged up look. I think he looks more creepy and terrifying with the bandaged up face. Kind of a bit like, like Invisible Man or like Dark Man. He kind of looks like a little bit as well, which I think works. And in a weird sort of way, I think they either probably should have kept for the movie or kept them in that get-up a little bit more. And this is where it perfectly dives into my negatives. And this is the biggest one. And I've always kind of had this negative, but it really, really stood out for me more this time around. I have to say, guys, I do not like the look of Michael Myers in this movie. That mask is horrendously bad, and it's one of the major complaints fans have about Halloween 4, and it never used to bother me when I first watched it as a kid, because I had no kind of reference towards like anything else. But then after watching like the other Halloween movies, Halloween 1 and 2, I kind of knew like the mask wasn't great, but it never really used to bother me. But it really bothered me now, especially after like kind of watching Halloween 2 not long ago, and obviously watching like the newer Halloween movies, where I think the mask looks great, to be honest with you. To see this, it just doesn't, I don't know, it just looks wrong. It just looks horrible. And I've heard the director say, like, you know, when he takes it from the store, it's supposed to be like a cheap mask or whatever, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But that's what he did in the first movie anyway. Like, he just took a mask from a store. So the mask is bad. It just is. It's horrendously bad. And I don't know why they didn't change it or just try to do something else. I mean, it could have been worse. There's a scene in this movie where the mask has blonde hair. And if you don't believe me, here it is. Why? I don't know. But I'm glad that got changed. So there's a positive in that. But also, just keeping with Michael Myers on this, I think he just looks off in this movie. I've tried to put my finger on it, and the only real thing I can think of after rewatching this movie is, I feel like the person underneath, like, the black getup, right? They're like wearing like a kind of a Halloween muscle suit, like kind of like, say, a Batman or Superman kind of like, you know, crappy rubber suit thing. Like you see like cheap Halloween costumes like a Superman, a Batman, or a He-Man. Like, they're wearing that, and then the black overalls are over it. It just looks weird. Like, I'm sure he's wearing shoulder pads at one point in this movie. I am certain he's wearing shoulder pads. Like, the chest is too far out at one point. It just physically just looks off. Like, if you compare Michael Myers in this to like Halloween 1 and 2, it's just so physically, drastically different. And not only physically, he feels different with like his movements of like what we think of Michael Myers as a character is. It's just miles away in Halloween 4 to what he is in Halloween 1 and 2. And even with the kills, like, he likes putting his finger and thumbs and faces and foreheads in this movie, because the amount of times he just grabs people in the face, I think he does it like 3 times. Like, one of the paramedics in the beginning gets a thumb through his forehead. Do you know how strong you have to be to put your thumb through someone's forehead? Well, he does that. I'm pretty sure he grabs someone's face in the house, one of the coppers or whatever, I can't remember off the top of my head, but he grabs him in the face, and I'm sure his fingers are going into the face. And then near the end, the guy driving the truck, he grabs him from here and's like ripping his flesh off. He stabs a girl with a gun and puts her through it. A gun. Stabs her with a shotgun. It's like he's just gained these powers out of absolutely nowhere. Nowhere. But it's a product of its time. It came out in '88. There'd been so many slasher movies by then, and the killers in them movies just seemed to get stronger and stronger and stronger without real explanation, really. And the kills became more extreme and more, you know, theatrical, I suppose. So Halloween 4 went the same way and just kind of made Michael Myers just like this unstoppable force, which he kind of was in 1 and 2, but he wasn't putting his thumb through foreheads and stabbing people with shotguns in them movies, you know. He was kind of, you know, doing the basic things. He was more stabby, hammers in the head and slashing throats and stuff like that. But yeah, Michael Myers in Halloween 4 just doesn't feel like Michael Myers at all, and it really stood out to me in this movie, and it knocked it down a peg or two. It really did. And I couldn't get over that mask. I know I've been told, but I just couldn't get over it. It's so bad. So bad. And I will say this before I sign off. Rachel is an awful babysitter, by the way. Never hire her to look after your kid. Never. So, all in all, guys, I still do enjoy Halloween 4. I think it's more of like a nostalgia enjoyment for me now. But I still think it is one of the better entries in the series, to be fair, because it kind of starts to go a bit downhill from now, really, thinking about it. But all in all, I'll still give this a positive score. I will give Halloween 4 a 3.5 out of 5. So guys, do you feel the same as me? Did you used to really love Halloween 4 when you were younger, but have you rewatched it and has it took a few little notches down for you, or do you still love it just as much as you did when you're younger? Or you one of them that never enjoyed it anyway? Or here's one for you. Do you like the look of Michael Myers? Whatever it is, guys, please leave a comment below. It is absolutely always a pleasure hearing from you. And as always, please take care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you again real soon. Take care, guys. Goodbye now.